God, guys. Oh my God. I just finished watching AEW World's End, and wow. Two things. One thing I think we all expected was going to happen. The other just kind of came out of nowhere. Um, First off, after holding the AEW World title for about 476 days, was that correct? It's 476. Uh, yeah, or I don't know. I think it's about that number. MJF has finally been dethroned by Samoa Joe in his hometown of Long Island. Samoa Joe is the new AEW World's Heavyweight Champion. And not only that, but the person behind the Devil's Mask has been revealed to be Adam Cole and the Kingdom and Wardlow working together, which I think most people suspected that was going to happen. But man, I mean, the way they executed it, I I was just like, wow. I mean, that is crazy. And it's funny because, you had these whole petitions of Logic Strong trying to say that MJF is the person behind the mask. He kept saying it multiple times. He had the demograph trying to say he was behind the mask. And then the whole time, him, they were working with Adam Cole, and they were plotting and seeding, to get MJF, to attack him. And I think most people expected this. I think a lot of, I was reading a lot of comments online. A lot of people were saying that it's got to be Adam Cole. It would make the most sense for it to be Adam Cole. At one point, there was a rumor that it may have been Jack Perry, since he had, since his suspension had been lifted since All In. But storyline wise, that really wouldn't have made any sense for it to be Jack Perry. And I'm glad it wasn't, because I feel like if it was Jack Perry, it definitely wouldn't have got the reaction it got. But the fact that it was Adam Cole, it all makes sense when you consider, the history together. And also, when you consider the fact that, MJF and Adam Cole, originally when they first started teaming together, Adam had never really intended for his friendship to even get to where it became with MJF. He didn't trust MJF. He was telling Roger Strong, like, look, I'm not gonna fall for his games. I'm not gonna fall for his tricks when they originally thrown together, because they had that match on Dynamite back in June that went to a time limit draw. And then, he was like 5 more minutes. MJF was like, no. But gradually, he started to like MJF more. And, Roger wasn't too happy about it. He started kind of putting Roger to the side. And then, they became close friends. But there were multiple times, though, where, there were teases that Adam Cole was going to turn on MJF. At first, everybody thought the obvious that MJF would be the one to turn on Adam Cole. We've seen that happen so many times with MJF that this time it was just a breath of fresh air to see a reverse. And, man, I got to say, the way they booked this thing, it was almost like the ref, Mark Winsberg, if I'm pronouncing his name right, it was almost like he looked as though the finish wasn't supposed to happen. I mean, when Joe made MJF pass out, when he put his arms up, MJF got a good amount of offense in, um, but Joe pretty much dominated most of the match. It was almost similar to Grand Slam, really. Joe dominated a lot of the match. He actually hit him with a muscle buster outside of the ring that looked really nasty. Um, you know, he he did several things to MJF throughout the match. Targeted his arm, his injured arm. The commentators are talking about, um, but MJF he did get him in the salt of the earth. He did do a step on his arm. He did he did hit him with an F5 basically when the ref was down. And Joe kicked out of it because he took too long to go for the pin. But Joe pretty much for the bulk of the match. Mainly had most of the offense, but MJF did get a good amount of offense in. But I kind of, even though this was MJF's hometown, I kind of felt like I don't really see them having Joe lose twice to MJF. And, I'm sure with Joe getting this victory, and Joe, Joe's definitely come a long way. I mean, at one point, he was actually holding the ROH television title and the TNT belt at the same time. But then, he dropped the TNT belt. I think he dropped it like right back to Wardlow early in the year. I want to say that was that Double or Nothing when he dropped the belt to Wardlow. It might have been Double or Nothing. I can't even think of exactly when it was, but I know he won it. I think it was like Full Gear or something of last year, and then he dropped the belt right back like a couple of months later. Might have been like Revolution or something like that to Wardlow. But he's definitely come a long way since then. Yeah, he won the belt at Full Gear last year, triple threat with Wardlow and Powerhouse Hobbs, if I'm not mistaken, at Full Gear. Then he took and lost it back to Wardlow, I think, at Revolution this year. But you know, he held the ROH television title for a long time, and then he just surrendered the belt. Didn't even actually lose the belt, but instead, just basically gave the belt away, gave the belt up, and said he was going after the AEW World Title, and that's exactly what happened. And I mean, he plotted the seeds. He worked apparently, of Adam Cole and the Kingdom and Wardlow. If they were in on this, then that pretty much means that Samoa Joe was, working with them the whole time, and he was gonna pretend to be with him. But when you think about everything that's happened, it all makes sense. Why would Adam Cole tell MJF, hey, you should work with Joe, you know, you should take his offer, to team with him, as far as the ROH tag belts. Why would he say that? When you think about everything that's, even like how the whole story went down, how it kind of started, with the masks and stuff, it really all makes sense. And then when you look at the different elements, even at Full Gear, it seemed like MJF was going to lose the belt to Jay White because so many times in that match, like Adam Cole had nearly screwed MJF out of the title, and you know, but MJF ended up winning. But it definitely seemed like he was going to win, and when he beat him at all in, you know, it looked like Adam was going to turn, but then they had him hug it out, and but then they won the belts because that was the same night they won the ROH tag belts. But when you look at it though, you could kind of tell, even though he told Roger Strong that he wasn't best friends, he wasn't his best friend anymore. But you could definitely tell that the seeds were planted for Adam, to be the one to be revealed as the man behind the mask, and it just to be interested to see how they kind of explain it, doing Dynamite this Wednesday. But man, I gotta say this. I just gotta say for Joe though, because I want to touch on this and the thing with Joe. Um, definitely, uh, it's definitely something I'll say with Joe winning the belt here. Because like I said, he was the ROH World Champion for a long time, throughout the year. Actually surpassed Jay Legal's record as the longest reigning ROH World Champion, television champion for that matter. And then he, dropped the belt to go after MJF. MJF wasn't even trying to do the rematch because of what happened during Grand Slam. But it's just funny, how they book, how it kind of played out, and then Joe ends up winning. I definitely think Joe, I do think he deserves it. It's just interesting, like I said, how they booked this thing. MJF, he's had his run in the sand as champ, and you know, at this point, I think Joe is probably going to hold that title for about as long, if not longer, than the amount of time he held the television title. He might even surpass MJF because the world champs in AEW, with the exception of the situation last year with CM Punk and him winning the belt and then getting injured, and then Moxley being the interim champ and all of that stuff going on. For the most part, the world champs, they pretty much hold the belt for a long time. They're like the one title in AEW where the same person is champ for an extended period of time before they finally drop the belt. But the only person who held it for about 6 months for a shorter period was Chris Jericho, the very first AEW World Champ in 2019 at All Out. But what I'm getting at is it was definitely interesting how they booked this because it really made you. It really just kind of threw me off because I didn't think I really thought MJF would put his arms up and the crowd looked surprised. I mean, sometimes you got to have those really moments that just kind of come out of nowhere, and that's what happened here. And so Joe's the new AEW World Champion. On top of that, the person behind the mask revealed to be Adam Cole, McKinnon, and Wardlow. But when you think about what Wardlow built, he said he was going to take everything from, MJF. He was coming after MJF. The only thing I'm a little bit confused about is the fact that, he said he wanted to go after MJF for the title, but now that MJF is not champion, you start to wonder, where does he fit into all of this? But overall, I definitely think, you know, this was definitely a very interesting reveal. I think everybody expected that to be the case, but it's like you kind of feel bad for MJF because for once he actually, with the way his character is, being dimensional, just not trusting anybody, feeling like he has to be the bad guy. For once, Adam Cole was trying to make him change his ways, and yet Adam Cole's the one who turns on him. So you definitely, um, you know, you definitely kind of feel for MJF in that sense because for once he actually had somebody that he felt he could call his best friend, and this is initially what happens. He it's a complete swerve, but yeah, I think we all kind of seen it coming, um, and yeah, I think you know it was definitely interesting, especially because most people expected the reveal to happen at Full Gear, but when you think about how it was planned, that they waited till after MJF dropped the belt, and looking at it, I think it was the right call. I didn't really think that at first, but when you kind of see the way this was booked, then it makes a lot more sense of why they waited to have him drop the belt, and then for this big reveal to happen. But yeah, um, wow, I just didn't see that coming. But elsewhere on the show, really briefly, this is the main thing I want to talk about because this was just shocking. But elsewhere on the show, Christian Cage, um, man, I was not very happy with the way this was booked. But Adam Copeland got the victory over Christian Cage in a really hard fought no disqualification match. I mean, they had tables, they had ladders. Edge was busted very early in the match. His face was all messed up. And he actually, you know, speared Christian Cage through the table. Beat Christian Cage with his own kill switch. Interestingly enough, because when Christian Cage hit Edge with the kill switch, or it says Adam Copeland now, but Adam had kicked out, and you know, but like I said, the match was back and forth, a lot of interference from Nick Wayne, but yeah, at one point. Adam jumped through the top of the balcony. I think that I don't know what you call it, but he jumped on the top of it when they got where the crowd was, and dived on him and Christian Cage. His mother got involved, Nick Wayne's mother, at one point, and you know, and stopped the pin from Edge pinning Christian Cage from Adam. See, I can't stop saying Edge, even though his real name is Adam Copeland. But stopping Adam from pinning Christian Cage, and so you had that whole thing going on. But I, 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 I don't know why they booked it this way. If you were gonna have Adam win it, what was the purpose? They should have just had Christian Cage retain if they were gonna book Adam to win it, just for him to get laid out by Kill Switch, aka Luchasaurus, just for it to look like Luchasaurus was finally gonna turn on Christian Cage, only for him to hand over the contract that he just won early in the night, for Christian Cage to cash in on it and win the TNT belt back. I don't get that. I don't really understand that. To me, that was probably the most confusing booking that they did the whole night. Because I actually was thinking that it was the match of the night up to that point, but then with the finish, I think that's really just messed it up. I'm not really sure what the point of that was, but Eddie Kingston got his win over John Moxley, winning the whole Continental Classic. Um, big moment for him. They hugged it out at the end. It was real nice to see. A lot of stiff chops between them in this match. Uh, really back and forth. The way it ended was smooth too, with the fist that Eddie Kingston hit on Moxley, get the win. Finally beating Moxley just like he beat Bryan Danielson on Dynamite. So, big victory for him. Definitely, an amazing match. You also had, man, um, Tony Storm, and now I'm just kind of going randomly with the other matches on the show. But you had the 2 8-man tag match, the opener, with the guys in the blue league, the gold league, everybody, that had lost the tournament. Danny Garcia actually, got the pin on Jay Legal. They're really building up Danny Garcia. I gotta say. I mean, he got a surprising win over Brody King in his final match in the Continental Classic, even though he had already at that point been out of commission. But he got the surprising win over him in that match, and they had him pin Jay Legal here. So that was a big moment for him. Um, and his team, Brian Danielson, Mark Briscoe, and I forget who else was on that team. Actually, I think it was just because it was an 8-man thing. Yeah, Brian Danielson, Mark Briscoe, uh, they were all on the same team. Yeah, the other 8-man tag with, Darby Allin and Sting and Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara and Ricky Starks and Morrissey and it's just too many names to mention. But yeah, you had the other 8-man tag match, uh, Powerhouse Hobbs. Yeah, so that match was pretty good as well. Um, you know, um, they got the victory. Sammy Guevara, pinned Ricky Starks to get the win for their team, and they started saying, chanting, thank you to Sting at the end of the match. This is Sting's last, pay-per-view of the year, and going into his retirement. So that was nice. Swerve Strickland beat Dustin Rhodes, because apparently Keith Lee wasn't cleared to wrestle, which sucks, because they've been building the singles match between them at this point up to a year. They should have done it a long time ago at this point, but especially with how over Strickland has become, I just think it would have been a mistake to, wait this long. And I really think the crowd, because no matter what Strickland had did, he tore, he tore Dustin Rhodes' ankle before the match started, and the crowd was still chanting for him. Um, you know, but Dustin wanted to carry on with the match anyway, and he got a good amount of offense in. At one point, hit him with the Canadian Destroyer, hit him with the Crossroads, hit him with, several moves throughout the match, the power slams, but in the end, Strickland was just toying with him, and he picked, got the victory. But I just think if they were going to do that, then they probably should have just did the angle and just left it at that. They didn't really have to draw the match out that long if they were going to go in that direction. But Tony Storm got the win over Rio. Um, Pretty solid matchup right there. Julia Hart got the win over Abaddon after some interference by Scott Blue. Um, yeah, so you had that pretty interesting match there. Uh, so yeah, that was the other things in the card. But yeah, mainly I just wanted to touch on the main event. Definitely, just kind of something I think that just kind of. I mean, the finish kind of came out of nowhere, but I definitely. It's just interesting what's going to happen from there. But that's pretty much it, guys. Center over Mr. Flicks. I had to really think about all the matches on the card because AEW tends to do a lot of matches, but I know they did do the Battle Royal, at the buy-in, which Luchasaurus won that. They did Hook and Willa Yuta at the buy-in, the FTW belt, and I saw that when I first turned on AEW, and so yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Sign off for this flex, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys in the next. Peace.